StrayAllDay.com.
You're now tuned into the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative. What is that? That is the go-getter energy that moves any one of us, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And then we put all this together into a series of frameworks, approaches, insights, strategies, and techniques all underneath the umbrella of one unifying philosophy that is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is things that my older self wishes that I had done sooner. Notice the words there. We're going to flip that around. But before we get into that, I'll explain what that means in a moment. But before we do that, I'll remind you of two things. First of all, my daily motivation, Monday motivation message is guaranteed to have you focused, sharp, and on point to start your day or your week, respectively. You can receive these by being a member of my free texting community. My number is 305-384-6894. Once we start sending those messages out again, you'll be getting those straight to your phone. Secondly, Work on Your Game University. That is the place where I do all of my direct coaching. We have four solid pillars of what our program is about. That is mindset, strategy, systems, and accountability. You would like to have me as your direct coach. That is the one place where it happens. Again, that is at workonyourgameuniversity.com, where you can learn more about what our program is about, type of people who we are helping, why we are doing it, what you're going to get out of it, everything you get access to immediately, and you can take the next step right there at workonyourgameuniversity.com. So with that out of the way, let's get into this topic, which is things my older self wishes that I had done sooner. And this is going to be, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is a 7-part series that we are beginning here. Things that my older self wishes I had done sooner. Now, there are many times that people will ask me questions about what's something that we would have told our younger selves, right? So you're 60 years old, what would you tell yourself at 40 or tell yourself at 20? Usually people want to look back. All right, you're this age, what would you tell yourself 10 or 20 years ago? What I'm going to do in this series, though, is flip it around and say, what would my older self, which I haven't even become yet, say to me today? What are the things that my older self will say to myself right now? That's what this series is going to be about. And these are things that we may wish we had done sooner, or that maybe we would have done differently if we knew then what we know now, or if we know now what we knew then, or stuff that we would simply tell someone who was younger than us. And today and through this series, again, I'm going to go through things that our older selves will say to us today, assuming, again, looking at what our older selves should know and things. And basically, since I'm not my older self yet, why am I even saying this? How do I qualify to say this? In other words, things that we in the future are going to look back and say, damn, I wish I had done that sooner. That's what this series is really about. Okay, assuming that the older self knows things that our current selves do not know. So I'm basically jumping into the future. This is like the movie Back to the Future, but we're not going back. We're going forward to the future, forward to the past, I guess is what we would call this one. Point number one, topic here today is things that our older selves would wish that we had done sooner. Things that our older selves will tell us today. Number one, get the wrong people off the bus ASAP. Number one thing, and these are not in any particular order. These are all equally valuable, but it's the first thing that I thought of. Get the wrong people off the bus ASAP. What does this mean? This is a metaphor. In his book, Good to Great, it's a book I've mentioned to you many times. If you have not read it yet, go get it. It's called Good to Great. The author is Jim Collins. He explains how the best companies followed a principle of getting the wrong people out of the organization and the right people into the organization, even before the company decided what exactly they were going to focus on doing. In other words, they weren't picking people based on, do you have the ability to do job ABC? They were picking people based on, are these the right type of people, period. Then once they got all the right type of people, we can figure out doing whatever we want to do because we got the right people. The right people will figure anything out. And there's a story that I'll tell in 1 second. But as Collins went on to explain here, when you have the right people in your organization, the what of anything can be figured out because you got the right people. So it doesn't really matter. Conversely, if you have too many of the wrong people in the organization, you can have a perfect plan and it will not be executed properly because you got the wrong people executing the program. You can have the best laid plans in the world, but you got the wrong people executing on them is not going to work. So getting the wrong people from around you and out of your life, out of your orbit, is of high importance when it comes to long-term success. there's a legendary story. If you saw the ESPN used to do these docu-series called Sports Century. It'll be like an hour long. I think they did it, I don't remember what year. Maybe it was around the year 2000. Maybe that's why they called it Sports Century. But it'll be like an hour long, basically like a documentary about an athlete or about a team, and just talking about all the things that made that athlete or team great. And they had one for Michael Jordan. You can probably find this one on YouTube. And this is the first place that this story was told. And it probably it's probably been told a bunch of other places since then. But there was a coach by the name of Bobby Knight. Bobby Knight was a coach at the University of Indiana, a legendary basketball coach at the college level. And in 1984, when Michael Jordan it was the same summer Michael Jordan was drafted to the Chicago Bulls, there was also an Olympiad that year. I believe it was in Los Angeles that year, the United States Olympic team. And Michael Jordan was on the Olympic basketball team. This is 2 Olympics before we started sending pro players. So Michael Jordan was still an amateur at the time because he hadn't yet played in the NBA. And Bobby Knight coached Michael Jordan on that Olympic team that summer. And they did go on to win the gold medal. And as that summer was going on, the NBA draft was coming up around the same time. So one of the teams who had a high draft pick in that year's draft called Bobby Knight, because this is what teams do. They go do their due diligence by calling up college coaches to ask them about their opinions on certain players who are coming out of college that they might pick to play in the pros. And one of the pro coaches or scouts or general managers, whoever this guy was, he calls Bobby Knight and he says, Bobby Knight, who do you think we should pick in the NBA draft? Because they had a very high draft pick. Mind you, Michael Jordan was the 3rd pick, so there's only a couple teams this could have been. He said, who do you think we should pick in the NBA draft? And Bobby Knight said, pick Michael Jordan. Now, he only knew about Michael Jordan because he knew him because he played college basketball. Bobby Knight coached Indiana. Michael Jordan played at North Carolina. So it's not like he coached them all year. He had only coached them during the Olympics. So Bobby Knight told the guy, pick Michael Jordan. And the guy from the NBA team said to Bobby Knight, well, we need someone who can play the center position. Michael Jordan played the shooting guard position, which is there's a big difference between them. And Bobby Knight said, play Michael Jordan at center. And the whole point of the story is that Bobby Knight was saying it doesn't matter what position you need Michael Jordan to play, because he is so good, you should pick him anyway and figure it out. This is the exact thing that Jim Collins was saying in his book, Good to Great. Get the right people, and it doesn't matter the what. They will figure it out because you got the right people. So getting those wrong people from around you is of high importance. Whatever it costs to get the right people around you, or for you to get yourself around them, make that investment. All right, you've heard me talk about that many times. You make investments to get around the right people. You pay for access. You pay for insight. You pay for association. You pay for those things. Whatever it costs to get rid of the wrong people, do that too. Sometimes getting rid of the wrong person means maybe you got to give some money back to somebody. Maybe you got to pay to extricate yourself from a situation. It is worth it because, again, right people on the bus, wrong people off the bus is of utmost importance before you do any other executions. Point number 2. Today's topic, once again, is what our older selves will tell ourselves today. Things you wish you had done sooner. Number 2, stop tolerating things and hoping that they will get better. Stop tolerating things in hopes that they will get better. Hope is not a strategy, okay? One of the biggest mistakes that we make as capable and intelligent human beings is our poor use of time. And one of the poorest uses of time is letting a situation that should not fester, allowing it to fester, hoping that something's going to change about it, and knowing that it's not going to change. We simply do not value or honor our time until we are running out of it. And this is the reason why I just did an episode on deadlines and pressure. When you have a deadline on you, then you're always running out of time. When you have pressure on you, you're always running out of time, which means we'll honor our time a lot more. We tend to value things when we notice that they're running out. When we look at things and assume that we have a plethora of it and assume that there will always be more of it, we tend to not value it. We value things when there's not much of it left. So deadlines will help you honor your time a lot better. So yesterday's episode will help you a lot in doing what I'm talking about right here. Your older self, which is closer to dying than your current self is, will tell you that you need to stop letting things fester and sitting around assuming that it'll just get better with time, because it doesn't. All right, don't assume that things will improve on their own. If you don't do something about it, it's just going to sit there or get worse. Things usually, when left alone, either just stay there or they get worse. They don't get better by themselves. And it only costs you more time and embitters you because you end up telling yourself later on that you should have done something about that sooner. How many of you have ever done something Let's just say this year. How many of you have done something this year that you said, damn, I wish I had done that last year. I wish I did that 3 years ago. I wish I'd known about that sooner. Of course you have. Then the older you get, the more of those you will accumulate. So just do them now. That's the whole point. That's what your older self is telling you. So today is the sooner that we'll be talking about tomorrow. Okay, so the thing that you figure out tomorrow, you say, I wish I knew about that sooner. Today is the sooner. That's right now. It's happening right now. Now is the time to do something about it. So this can include anything involving people, relationships, habits, dead-end jobs, careers, family businesses, or anything else that is in the way of you achieving your ideal forward movement and success. Remember, hoping is not a strategy, ladies and gentlemen. Point number 3. Today's topic, once again, is things that your older self will tell yourself today, things that your older self will wish you had done sooner. Number 3, most of the things that you put off until later will never happen. Most of the things you put off until later will never happen. So if you tell yourself, I'll get to that in 5 years, 5 years from now, you will have a whole bunch of other things on your plate and you will have forgotten about the thing you said you were going to get to. One thing you can do structurally is to change the word later to never in your mental dictionary. So then you know what you're actually saying when you tell yourself you'll do something later. One thing you can do in your mental dictionary is change the word later to never so that you are being more accurate about what you're doing when you tell people, when you tell yourself a certain thing. It will help you make more solid and definitive decisions about actions to take or not take, which means if you tell yourself that you'll do something later, that means you're okay with the possibility of that thing not happening. And if you know you want to do something, you will not allow yourself to put it off until later, because that usually is a death sentence to an activity. All right. One of the death sentences of action is later, delay, procrastination. Let me do it later. Let me get to it when I get to it. Those are death sentences to success, death sentences to action, because you got to take action to be successful. And if you delay action, you're delaying success. And later usually is not a delay, it means a rejection. Right? So there's a saying there that it says, God's delays are not rejections. Maybe something that sounds like that. I'm here to tell you that man's delays are rejections. If God delays something and says not right now, that doesn't mean he's saying never. All right, I'll believe that about God. But when it comes to you, you ain't God. If you tell yourself not now, that usually means never. It usually means it's not going to happen. Why? Because life is always happening. There are always new things that will pop up to push things further and further down your timeline. And again, eventually your timeline ends. So you can't push everything down there because you will not have the energy, the resources, or the time to get to them, things you keep pushing down. So if you're serious about doing a thing, do it now instead of telling yourself that you will get to it later, which you know you probably will not. So don't keep telling yourself that you'll get to stuff whenever you decide to get around to it. That probably is not going to happen. So next time you use the word later, just change the never. Let's recap today's class, which is, again, first in our what's going to be a 7-part series, things that your older self will wish you had done sooner, things that you should be doing right now instead of waiting until later so your older self doesn't have to tell you about it. Number 1, get the wrong people off the bus ASAP and get the right people on the bus immediately. Jim Collins talked about this in Good to Great. Bobby Knight analogized it when he said, you need a center, get Michael Jordan and play him a center. It doesn't matter. When you get the right people around, you will figure out what to do and how to do it. When you know what to do and how to do it, but you have the wrong people, you can have the best plan in the world and it's still not going to work. Why? Because you got the wrong people. Get the right people around you in life. This is worth the investment. Number 2, stop tolerating things and hoping that they will get better. Things do not get better when left on their own. They either stay exactly the same or they get worse. That is just the law of entropy. Nothing gets better when it's just left by itself, hoping that it gets better. That never happens. It does not work that way. One of the biggest mistakes that many capable and intelligent people make is a poor use of time because you don't value it, because you are not forcing yourself to get to things. Force yourself to get to things or allow yourself to be forced to get to things, and you will find yourself getting a lot more done. This is worth the investment. Again, let me say it again. It is worth the investment. Number 3, most of the things you put off until later will never happen. So when you say later, you should instead say never, because most of the things we put off until later don't happen. Why? Because life happens, things get in the way. When we are not hot and bothered and excited about a thing anymore, we tend to just let it die on the vine and we never come back to it. That is the way 99% of people operate on 99% of things. So do not think yourself an exception. You are not an exception. If you don't do it now, it's probably not going to happen at all. If you're okay with that, then don't do it now. But if you are not okay with that, do it now. All that said, we're going to get into the next part in this series in tomorrow's episode. Make sure you text me so you're in my community. My number's in the description, and workonyourgameuniversity.com. You want to be the older version of yourself that will look back on your younger self and say, I'm glad you made that investment into Work on Your Game University and to work with Dre Baldwin. Go to workonyourgameuniversity.com right now. Work on your game. Dre, all